Hello everyone! My name is Tracy and welcome back to my channel. I've recently quit my professional job and is currently taking a break to recover from my burnout. If you've not heard about my story, do check out my previous video. The link is right over here. In my last video, I shared the 10 reasons why you should be quitting your job. Now, if you're also planning to quit your 9 to 5 and take a break from your job, like me, then this video is for you because I'm going to share with you the tips to financially prepare for it. When you hear that someone is quitting their job without a backup plan, what comes into your mind? Wow, that's so daring of them. Yeah, are they not afraid that they will run out of money? They must have lots of savings. That's why they can afford to quit like this. I can never do that. I don't have so much savings. But wait a minute. What if I told you that you may be able to do it as well? Most of the time, we just assume that our savings is not enough to support us for a few weeks or a few months without a job. But is that really true? Let's find out. Step number 1. Take a hard look at your current expenses. What are you spending on? What are some monthly payments that won't likely change, like your phone bills, utility bills, and mortgage? Are there also activities that require fees, like perhaps yoga classes, gym passes, or subscriptions? Create a list of all the money that you spend in a typical month. And I mean all of it. In this way, you'll instantly have an overview of where your money actually goes. Most of the time, when we have our monthly salary coming in, we pay less attention to our expenses. I myself is totally guilty of that. There were several times that my online shopping went up to $1,000, and I didn't even realize that until I checked my credit card statement. And when I saw it, I got a huge shock. Did I really spend that much? Yes, Tracy, you did. Now, before you start freaking out like me, relax, because we're not done yet. We're now going to look at your annual expenses. Do you go traveling once or twice a year? Do you have health or life insurance that you need to pay annually? And don't forget that you still have to pay income tax. In Singapore, we have to pay our taxes in April for the work we did the previous year. So, if you left your job in September this year, by next April, you will have to pay the income tax for your work from January to September. Depending on how much you're earning, sometimes your taxes can cost you a couple of thousands. So do remember to factor that as an expense that you have to eventually pay. Now you have your list of monthly expenses, annual expenses, and one-off expenses like the income tax payment. What you're going to do next is look through the list and start highlighting expenses that would change immediately after you quit your job. For example, the $800 dining out expenses could go down because without your work, you may be eating out less, and you would also be skipping on that weekly Friday night out to the pub with your co-workers. Transportation costs may decrease as well because there is less commuting to and fro the office every day. After you have done this, calculate your new monthly expenses. Next, take a look at your annual expenses and divide it by 12 months just to see how much it would translate into monthly expenses. Add that to your monthly expenses list, and you will arrive at the amount that you'll be dealing with after you quit. The next step is to find out where you stand financially. Take a deep dive to find out how much asset you actually own. This includes your savings, your investments, your house, and in Singapore, we have this thing called CPF,
which is the Government Social Security Savings Scheme.
While CPF is primarily reserved for retirement, you can actually use part of your CPF in the ordinary account to buy property or service housing loans. If you are a Singaporean or Singapore permanent resident, do log into your CPF account to find out more about how to utilize your funds.
Now that you've found out how much you own currently, the next step is to find out the future money that may be coming in.
Well, I'm not talking about the inheritance that you're hoping to get from that relative of yours that's not so healthy right now.
Though that could be taken into consideration. But anyway, let's not focus on that. What I'm referring to is money that you know you're going to receive in the near future. Like for example, your bonus payouts.
Are you quitting before getting your bonus or after? If you're quitting after, then take that amount of money into your consideration. Another possible future money is investment. When you invest in stocks, you probably have done your homework and are confident that they will grow. So, what you can do is study the past trends and chart to estimate how much you envision it to grow. Now, after having an overview of your assets, separate them into two groups, liquid asset and non-liquid asset. Liquid asset is an asset that can easily be converted into cash within a short amount of time. Some examples will be your cash savings and investments. Non-liquid asset is the opposite. It cannot be quickly and easily converted into cash. Some examples would be your property and retirement funds or CPF.
It is important to differentiate your assets because then you'll know how much money you can actually use immediately and how much of it can be eventually activated if you're short of cash.
Now, here's the exciting part. Calculate how many months of float you have based on your monthly expenses and assets. Float, by my definition, shows how long you can survive with your expenses based on your current liquid asset. Why liquid assets? Just imagine you're on a boat sailing out to another island. You need to know how long you can survive on your journey with the supplies you brought with you. This bunch of supplies is equivalent to your liquid assets that you can use immediately. Other items you may have with you are perhaps your treasure box, which you can exchange for food when you reach the island, but cannot be used immediately on your journey. That treasure box is equivalent to your non-liquid asset. So, after knowing how much you spend monthly, you can check how long you can float with your current liquid assets. Remember the list of expenses you created earlier? You should first deduct the one-off payments from your liquid assets. In this case, we will minus your income tax payment from your savings. After that, divide your savings by your estimated monthly expenses to see how many months of float you have. Money experts typically suggest that you should have a minimum of 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. But it really depends on what you're comfortable with.
So let's say your monthly expenses come up to be about $3,000 and you have a liquid asset of about $30,000. That would mean you could survive 10 months without working. This may be very possible, especially if you have been diligently saving up. But what about an emergency? Like you suddenly fall ill during these 10 months, or something bad happened and you needed a large amount of cash? Let's say you're only planning to take a 3-month break. You'll still have 7 months worth of savings that you could use for that emergency. And if that's not enough, you still have other liquid assets that you could eventually activate, like for example, your investments. And the best part is, you still have non-liquid assets that you can use if you're really short of cash.
After you know your expenses and assets, the next part is to prioritize your lifestyle.
Ask yourself this: are you comfortable with the amount of float that you have? This is the question that only you have the answer to, because everybody's comfort level is different. For example, I have friends who are totally comfortable with a 3-month float, whereas for me, someone who likes to err on the safe side, I would be more comfortable if I have a float of 10 months or more. If you're happy with the float that you have, then great! You may skip this last step. In fact, you now know that you're good to go and you can start writing that resignation letter of yours. The real problem is when you're not comfortable with the float that you have. Like, for example, if you're someone like me who would prefer a thicker safety net, what do you do?
There are 2 paths you can take at this point. The first one is that you could continue to work a bit longer to save up enough money to reach your target. Because you have done steps 1 and 2, it's a lot easier to estimate how much longer you need to work, and it may not be as bad as you thought. For example, maybe you only need to work for another 2 months to save up enough money to go for that trip that you planned before quitting your job.
But let's say you really can't stay on this job any longer. It's driving you nuts and you must submit that resignation letter next week before you lose your sanity. Then the second path for you is that you can revisit that expenses list that you created earlier and take a look to see what are the things that you can cut back. Perhaps instead of going to the movies or dining at expensive restaurants like once a week, could you do it just once or twice a month? Or could you remove it entirely from your lifestyle? Basically, start prioritizing your lifestyle and make decisions on what you plan to keep and what you can actually sacrifice.
Speaking of lifestyle, some of us may want to actually enrich our lives during our break. For example, you may always have dreamed of traveling the world and you would love to do that during a break. Or perhaps there is a cooking class that you have always wanted to sign up for. In these cases, your expenses might go up after you quit, and all the more you need to analyze what are some of the trade-offs in your current lifestyle that could allow you to pursue what you really want to do during a break. For Singaporeans, we have Skills Future credit of up to $1,000 for us to sign up for enrichment courses. So, don't forget to use them. Half of the amount will expire in 2025, so be sure to use them soon. Do visit the Skills Future website to find out more.
When you financially prepare for your resignation, you are also mentally preparing for it. A lot of times, we worry too much of the unknown and we let fear control us. So you remain in that toxic job even though you know it's no longer suitable for you and you should be going, but you were too scared to do so. Knowing how much you spend monthly, how much assets you actually own, and how long you can survive in your current situation really helps to put things in perspective. You now know how long you can rest without a job, so you'll be more at ease and mentally ready to quit your job.
Okay, Tracy, I'm ready to quit now. I have learned all the 10 reasons why I should quit in your previous video. And now I've gained financial confidence to quit. But it's my first time resigning, and I'm really anxious. I don't know what to do.
Don't worry guys, I've got you covered. Because in my next video, I'll be sharing with you My Resignation Survivor Guide. So be sure to check out that video. It will be released next week after this video has been uploaded. So do subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss it. Alright, see you in my next video. Good luck!